early 1980s, my dad used to go back and forth from Mexico to the United States, migrating, seasonal migrant worker. He worked in Mexico in the same sort of fashion, seasonal migrant worker, but 85, with Reagan, the Immigration Reform Act was established, and my dad decided to sort of get his residency. And then from there applied so the family can come to the United States. So basically we all came here in 1996 to Cornelius, Oregon, a small little town in Washington County. Well, first of all, it's a different country, different culture, different language. You get to a place and then you see, we come from a village of 1,000 people to a place of 10,000 people in a Portland metro. I mean, just at the ages of the Portland metro of 1 million or 1.5 million people. So things are different. The infrastructure is different. Even like to get into the bus, you have to speak the language or at least understand, how do I pay here, and so on. So that was shocking in many ways, but also a greater opportunity, right? This is the land of the opportunity. So what do we do, right? What are some of the opportunities that are coming with this, but also very, very aware of the challenges.
I came to Oregon after I graduated from college. I grew up in Los Angeles, then went to college on the East Coast, and wanted to be closer to home, but not too close to home. I've been fascinated by cities and exploring different cities and how they feel, and I don't like just visiting for like a week. I wanted to really experience Portland. So I decided I was going to move for a summer and really get the feel for it. I was, at the time, and I guess still now, Portland gets a lot of attention for being really livable, and I was attracted by that and checking that out and what that meant, and kind of have an interest in urban planning. And then at the same time, Portland is not as dense as one would have imagined. Where are the people? I remember really thinking that. I got there on a Sunday morning and was staying with a friend downtown. And I was like, where is everyone? So that was really shocking. And then of course, when I started seeing people, the fact that there weren't more people of color was really striking, especially in that part of town, especially being downtown in a city and not seeing more people of color was shocking. Yeah.
We moved here because my dad got a job. He worked in the lumber industry. He worked for an international lumber organization that was based in Oregon. We moved to Lake Oswego for the schools and the safety. That was the top priority that my parents were looking for in coming from Albuquerque, and not the most safe neighborhood and not without the best schools. And so as we were moving here, they were asking, where's the safest place, where's the best schools, where should we go? And they heard over and over again, you should move to Lake Oswego. So when we moved there, there were very few Latino families, actually no other ones that I know of, very few families of color. And so especially in school, we experienced a lot of racism and classism, sometimes in very overt ways and sometimes in more covert ways. In some situations it was social, it was between peers. I remember actually making friends, and being a light-skinned Latina, all was just fine. And then it would seem as though when friends' parents would learn who I was or where I was from or what our family name was or who my family was, then kids weren't allowed to hang out with me anymore. We would actually make friends that then we couldn't be friends with. And I didn't understand that at the time. I look back now and sort of put it all together.
In Chihuahua, where I was born and I lived for almost 25 years, there's no rain, never rains. And so when I came here when it rains in Mexico and Chihuahua, everybody's happy, it's just something. And so when it rains, it pours, but everybody gets on the street, they get wet. It's a celebration. And when I moved here, it was strange that nobody was on the street when it rained. Like, what's going on? People don't like rain? But after a couple of months, I'm like, when is this gonna stop, you know? And Chihuahua only raised for a day or so. And my friend, my roommate at that moment was like, it's gonna, pretty soon, and that was in March, you know, next month. And then I waited a month, and then in April I asked, when is this gonna stop? And he's like, oh, next month. And he kept going until July, you know, like, oh my God, what's going on? I didn't know about the rain in Oregon, I really didn't.
My parents, you know, they came over to work, as many people, immigrants have come, is for work, number one. And they did it, and I grew up watching them work, and a lot of my friends will say, you're always doing something, you're always thinking about what's the next thing, you never sit down, it's either education or where's your next job or what board are you going to be on or what, you know, you're always working, volunteering, doing something. Why don't you just sit down and relax? Why don't you just take a break? And I was thinking about that several people have told me that. And, you know, in my family, the value is hard work to, you know, education and put those two things together. So my parents worked, they allowed me to have education. And now I have to put those two things together to, you know, to it's not just me, it's my community, right? I mean, a lot of my friends who are American born and have, you know, their immigrant stories are way in the past of their families, have a chance to relax now. They have a chance to be, you know, because they have opportunities that are waiting for them, right? So I'm one of the people who now, my generation, first generation, wants to make sure that I'm making opportunities for the next generation, for my kids. So I can't sit, I can't relax, you know, I have to be visible. I have to be outspoken, because a lot of people in my community don't, or they're first generation, or they're just figuring out how to make their way here. And so I want to make sure that since I was given the opportunities of my parents' sweat and their hard work, everything they did was for me, I want to make sure that I'm doing that for others and bringing others, and not only for my kids, but just people who don't have those opportunities yet. I have to keep working, so I won't sit, you know. I take hard work and, you know, being out in the community as a serious responsibility.
I think a lot of the leadership skills that I have learned is probably from growing up in such racist communities. I was very outspoken as a kid, got in a lot of trouble. I stood up for what I believed in, and the racist part was difficult, but I think it made me who I am today. I'm a very strong person, very independent, and that's how I teach my kids. But I think one of my influences was my mom. My mom was a very proud woman, and she wanted me to embrace both cultures. So it was Native and Hispanic. Growing up in Prineville, in a rural town, with 5 kids and no father, it was really hard. She always taught us to be strong, to be independent, to embrace our culture, be proud of who we are. And she's seen the struggles when we were younger, the racism, it was horrible. So she wanted us to be strong, independent people, you know, to grow up with value, family. And she's the one that really pushed us me and my siblings, to do everything we could and taken advantage of everything we could to get out of the poverty, the darkness that we grew up in.
Closeness with family had helped me to really see that I can help. You know, like the community here I seen it grown. You know, here in Portland, because when I came to Portland, we were a very small number of Latinos, but as the years pass, you know, we see more, presence of Latinos in the community, you know, because when I came here to Portland, it was very white, and now it's more colorful, you know, in the sense of cultures, not only with Latinos, but other cultures too. So for me to be able to have the opportunity to be a professional Latino, that's what motivated me in my leadership abilities, to be able to offer those opportunities that some Latinos might have some barriers, you know, which is like maybe language or understanding the crossover into integrating into this culture?
I think for me, I'm very proud of my Mexican culture, but at the same time, I can see that it can also hold us back here. What I mean by that is when I was a sophomore in high school, I would play on the basketball team. And my school was very small, only 100 students. With that, it was including 8th grade. And but the good thing about that is, you know, I wanted to play basketball. Freshman year, I was on varsity basketball team because there was no tryouts. So that was the one good thing. But sophomore year, we weren't going to have a team. We didn't have enough players. And I was the only Latina playing basketball. I think culturally, it's just not something that women do. And so I would ask my friends, you know, like, you guys play, join the team so we can have a team. And they said, no, my parents won't let us. And so I think at least Mexicans are very protective of their young women, and they want to keep them sheltered. So having them go on away games was a big thing. And so one of the biggest things, and it comes from protection and trying to keep them safe. I understand that. So I actually had the school set up a parent night, and I spoke at the parent night, and I spoke about the safety measures that are kept. And I think that had an impact on them. So we actually had 3 of my friends that joined, my Mexican friends, and we were able to save the basketball team that year.
Well, I guess I can think by the way that my mom had to learn to navigate the system here in America after she was here in the United States. It makes me think a little bit how it is that we can help people, other people, to bring equity, and because a lot of people don't have those resources when they come to America, and they don't know how to do it. And it's not just a matter of just here, this is what it is, because sometimes they're not going to develop skills if it's just here, this is what it is. I have to make an effort, and I have to put myself out there, and I have to work in the community, not just in my job. It's just so happened that I do a lot of that for my job, but I also do that as a community member, to bring information to people, to share knowledge so that they can develop. And as an individual, I also learn I don't need to hold back either.
It is very important for Latinos in Oregon to step into leadership roles because the community here is oftentimes, the Latino community here is oftentimes invisible. And the ones who have an opportunity to have a voice, we need to speak up. We have to remain together, and we have to be a stronger voice. If we all remain together, we can come up with better ideas and also create role models for future generations.
We all have the same struggles. We all have the same obstacles. And I think if we can help one another, I think that's, I'm not saying, well, I guess I am saying, kind of unite and walk the walk. If I can help one person, that's it for me. I've done my job. But I think if one, like for instance, today we met the people from the panel, and I'm sitting there kind of going, well, I have a connection for this, or I have a connection for that other thing that this person did, or I have that connection for this other. Well, maybe they can come to my hospital. Maybe, So I'm already kind of, my mind is going like at 1,000,000 miles an hour. That I think if people did what I was doing there, I think we would be able to help one another.
I think a lot of it, again, goes back to my passion in education is we live in a state where we know that 37% of kids under the age of 5 are kids of color. And you look at the leadership and it does not reflect that at all across the state. You look at it, teachers, you look at, I mean, you don't have to be an elected official to be in a position of leadership. So for our youth to grow up and not have people to look up to that look like them, that talk like them, it's a little alarming because it can discourage a lot of kids. It can discourage a lot of future leaders from knowing that there are people that want to see them succeed, that there are people just like them who can make a difference and will make a difference.
It's important because one of our biggest problems as a community is our invisibility. And by that I mean that at least in this area, but I'm sure it extends to all of Oregon and even other states. There aren't a lot of Latinos that are on boards, that are in positions of power, if you will, yet the population is growing. And so we have people at the very top that are making decisions that affect the Latino community that have very little ties. Sometimes they don't know anything about the Latino community. And so it's important for us as Latinos to kind of step into those roles and embrace them. I think culturally, we don't always, it's not our first instinct to embrace those roles. And so I think a lot of it is we have to coach ourselves and we have to support each other and not be afraid to take on that responsibility.
I think it's really important for my friends of my cohort and everybody to follow the leader and then to be the leader as well. So we can continue to shape this culture that we're in. You know, we have to shape it. Only we can shape it. If there are no spaces for us to celebrate or be who we are, then we need to actually create the space to celebrate or to be who we are. And if our roots don't celebrate who we are, then we have to challenge our tradition to accept us and allow us to just be, you know. In my case, I'm gay and I'm Latino, and it's not like the fucking easiest trip sometimes. And so what I set out to do is to create a space where I collect stories of people who are gay and Latino, and I score them with traditional music that holds the space of our cultural identity. And by performing these new stories that are modern and that reflect us today, scored by the old songs that we're connected to, our cultural identity, then we get to create a new experience. We get to create a new physical space for people to accept us, you know? And I think that's really important. And a leader needs to not only just understand what's going on around them, and then they need to understand how to challenge it and how to like rub against the edge and create a new space. We can't just like follow. We can't be sheep. I mean, we could.
When people have a cushion to fall back on, they have parents or families who help them out with resources so they can afford to take risks because they'll have that support. But I think Unidos made me realize that you can have other kinds of cushions to fall back on and to be vulnerable in and to explore your identity and your thoughts. And I think that is ultimately something that Unidos showed me and taught me how to do that I will take with me.
I built relationships with people from across the state, people I may not have encountered, and also with people that I knew locally from work and from our community that I maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity to spend time with. And so I was able to learn about people, learn about work, and really come to understand that we have so many, although we come from so many different places and different experiences, that when we unite, we have power and we can make change.
It's been fantastic. It's been an experience because they don't just teach you to be a leader. They teach you to, I don't know how to say it, to be okay with yourself. This is, we talk about internalized oppression and how we talk to ourselves down and all the oppression that we have from our parents and from society and how to overcome that. And so that's a great thing that I've never seen before. Most leadership groups or classes, they only teach you to do civic engagement or to do something social, I don't know. But yeah, this is way different. I didn't expect for this to happen, so I'm really happy.
I have taken away a lot from Unidos. I feel that Unidos have impacted my life tremendously. It really has been a life-changing experience for me. I learned things, but not only did I learned things, and that's good, but I experienced changes in myself going through this program that I'm very appreciative of. And those are things that are gonna continue to create an impact in the choices that I make and how I conduct my life in the future. It's been definitely a life-changing experience.
Unidos has definitely been a unique experience in that you make some very honest, intentional, deep friendships. And I'll always remember from the first day I walked into the room and I met everybody and I thought, what the heck did I sign up for? Like, there's no way I fit into this group. Like, some of these people are just amazing leaders already, and I know who they are, and what am I going to be able to bring to this? But thanks to our lovely Nancy Luna, who like just broke us all down and put us all on the same level, and we got to build each other to where we are today. And I'm basically taking away a new extended family.